discussing a very serious topic, and that subject is suicide. Suicide can be a difficult topic to discuss for most individuals, but it is so important to educate yourself and others on how to recognize the actions and behaviors of someone who is suicidal. Have you ever lost a loved one to suicide? In 2009, Barry M. Wagner wrote a book with information regarding suicidal behavior in children and adolescents. Wagner defines suicide in a clear manner. He states that suicide, sometimes referred to as completed suicide, can be defined as death arising from an act inflicted upon oneself with the intent to kill oneself. It is important to remember that not all suicides are, as Wagner says, completed suicides. People in your life may be contemplating suicide without you having any idea. Nobody really expects someone you are close with to commit suicide, especially if they don't show any signs or behavioral changes until it's too late. I have personally lost 2 close friends to suicide, and I wish I had known what they were going through during that time because it came to such a shock to everyone in their lives. By learning to recognize the signs and symptoms of suicide, you may be able to help save someone's life. Suicide is an important thing to learn about because it happens every day. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention website states that on average there are 132 suicides per day. Today I will be discussing the signs and symptoms of suicide, the behavioral changes that occur, the causes, and the available resources and treatment centers. The first point is the most important step. Being able to recognize the signs and symptoms if yourself or someone you know is thinking about suicide will set the foundation for the actions you take next. Some people may make signs and symptoms more noticeable than others, and those people will choose to hide them. According to a 2011 article written by Janice E. Ward and Melissa A. Odegaard, there are no single causing behaviors that point to suicide. Rather, it is better understood as the combination of multiple factors that lead to predictable behavior. But here are a couple of the most common signs and symptoms projected by people who have thought about committing suicide or have portrayed these signs right before their death. Verbally telling someone you are feeling suicidal is a top factor on the list. For example, making statements such as, "I'm going to kill myself," "I wish I were dead," or "I wish I hadn't been born." As awful as it is, the statement, "I'm going to kill myself," is often used as a joke in today's society, used by people of all age groups, but mostly younger generations. This may make it more difficult to know if someone is serious about having suicidal thoughts. Getting the means to take your own life, such as buying a gun or collecting copious amounts of pills, is another common sign. They may be withdrawing from social contact and wanting to be left alone, mood swings, being emotionally high one day and deeply discouraged the next day, feeling trapped or hopeless about a situation, constantly turning to drugs and alcohol, doing risky or self-destructive activities, giving belongings away, and lastly, saying goodbye to people as if it is the last time they will see them. Warning signs are not always obvious, and they may vary from person to person. Some make their intentions more clear, while others keep suicidal thoughts and feelings to themselves. Others may not even know how to explain how they are feeling, so they may choose not to try and explain to others in fear of being misunderstood. Behavioral changes are also important to educate yourself and others on because they may show a pattern of who is more susceptible to suicide and the reasoning behind it. Some behavioral changes to look out for may include a person who is normally very talkative and outgoing now may keep to themselves and may seem distant or depressed. They may make reckless or impulsive actions. They may demonstrate aggression, depression, anxiety, and withdrawal from others. But to better understand the behavior of suicidal people, we must first address the common and dangerous myths. Many people think that discussing suicide with a suicidal person can increase the likelihood of them taking their own life. But according to an article written by Mark P. Popenhagen and Roxanne M. Quill, that is far from the truth. In the 1998 article titled "Adolescent Suicide, Direction, Intervention, and Prevention," the authors state that studies have shown that asking whether or not a person is thinking about suicide and discussing the options may actually act as a deterrent. These types of myths need to be discussed in society more so people can identify the false statements. In 2009, Barry M. Wagner wrote a book with information regarding to suicidal behavior in children and adolescents. He states that not all suicidal threats and plans are made by individuals with clear suicidal intent. This is a great example of how someone may not actually want to die, but instead are seeking for help. Behavioral changes most often go unnoticed, or the person hides any changes that may have occurred with their behavior. So by learning the common behavioral changes for someone who is suicidal, you may be able to help that person searching for a reason to live. We are next going to learn how to recognize the possible causes of suicide. Some causes may include, but are not limited to, traumatic life events. For example, losing a loved one, prolonged stress, overwhelming lifestyle, bullying, and the list goes on, because an issue that may seem small to you may seem drastic to another person. Mental illness is another cause of suicide. Depression or other undiagnosed mental illnesses can be a result as to why a person may be acting differently. There is always a light at the end of the tunnel, but by providing available resources and treatment centers for someone contemplating suicide, it may change their outlook on the idea. Resource and treatment centers are great options when seeking help. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline, for which the number is 800-273-8255, is a great and private hotline to call when you're wanting to speak with someone. The National Institute of Mental Health is a great website to answer frequently asked questions about suicide. And the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is a great website to educate yourself about the risk factors and the warning signs of suicide. All of these options are helpful solutions to hopefully lessen the suicide rates around the world. Suicide is an important topic to learn about because it happens every day. What I want you to take away from this speech today is to recognize the signs and behaviors of suicide, learn about some statistics about it, the many causes of it, and the resources and treatment centers to contact with any information in regards to suicide. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention states that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. Get in the habit of asking others how they are feeling, because you never know what may be going on behind closed doors. You could be the one to save a loved one's life.
Hi, hang on, I'm here. I can't get it.
It's okay.